Welcome everyone to the second talk in the talk series which we are conducting as a part of our week-long Pi Day celebrations. I am Shivam from BSMS third year from CMIT and I will be your chair for the day. Today's talk is on financialization of savings by Joyentanuj from the School of Mathematics. Joyentanuj has done his BSc with a major in mathematics and a minor in economics and statistics. He is currently a fourth year Ph.D. student in IISER Thiruvananthapuram who is specializing in graph theory. Over to you, Joyentanuj.
So before I start, I want to say something that I am not an expert in this field nor formally trained. So I am giving this talk to share the knowledge what I learned out of my own interest. I study some things, so I will mostly be sharing those things. Okay. So the title of the talk is financialization of savings. So you can more or less the meaning comes to be how to organize your savings. So before that, before you can organize, so you have to save something, right? So how to save? So that is the question that comes before that. And before that, one question still comes that why do you need to save? So I will try to answer these questions one by one. So so for the first question that why do you need to save? So if you see the life expectancy of people now within India, if you can assume. So it's approximately 70 to 75 years. So if you plan to uh, relax the later part of your journey after maybe 55 or 60, then you have still an window of 10 to 15 years that will not be earning any money. So if you want to relax, hopefully you are not earning any money. So you need a sum of money which will let you to survive to that period of 10 to 15 years. So when I usually tell to my friends about this thing that so we need to save some money for the later part. So they usually say that we may also die early, right? Maybe and then the saving is no point. So but I feel that still we should do some savings because also we can anything can happen tomorrow also, right? So we can't predict and do according to that. So we have to do some savings so that we can relax the later part of the life. So that is the why part. Okay. So before proceeding further, so in the abstract I told you that if you can save only 10,000 per month for 30 years, so that 30 years is important. So if you can save for 30 years, 10,000 each month, then you can save a corpus of around 7 crores. So there is a calculator. You can easily find out in the internet. So this is I put the monthly investment at 10,000, and suppose you gain a rate of interest of 15% for 30 years, then you end up the total value you end up is 7 crores. So you can see that this much is only what you are investing, and this much you are gaining as interest. So this is the power of compounding. So in this case, two things are important. Is this time thing? So you have to keep it for a long time, and also the rate of returns. So, but here we will look into what is called expected rate of return later, more details. Okay, so one more thing I want to point out, suppose you increase this 10,000 to slightly, just 5,000 per month more, that is 15,000, and everything's are same for 30 years and 15%. So you can see that it ends up to be 10 crores. So you can see how the difference of 5,000 each month can make from 7 to 10. Okay. So before I tell more about what is this expected rate of return, so I'll show you a screenshot from a newspaper, the Economic Times. This is a very recent newspaper. So news you can say there's 14th March 2022. So they say that the inflation has rise to a 8-month high of 6.07%. So inflation means so it's the rate at which your money depreciates if you put it in a if you sit on cash, it is the rate at which your money depreciates. So So this is the average rate of inflation in our country. So from last December 2021 to this February 22. So if you can see, if you see this rate of inflation 6%, and if you think about bank FDs returns, so it is only 5.4%. So if you can calculate, everybody can calculate that if you gain an FD rate of interest at 5.4 and your inflation is 6%, then your money is depreciating in your bank. So it is of no use to keep uh, cash as a fixed deposit in your bank. So I also don't want to comment upon if you keep it only as savings. So that is 2.5. That is horrible. So that rate of return. So I will show you next what are the usual trends of bank FD rates and inflation. Yes. So in our country, so since this has the inflation has stabilized from more or less 2014, you can say 2014 onwards to now, it has stabilized from it stays almost between 4% to 6%. Even if it is between 4% and 6%, so if you can average out on 5%, if you stay, still you are not gaining much if you are keeping your uh, savings to only FDs. So I want to show you in what other asset class you can move your savings so that you can get that expected rate of return is as 15%. So what is expected rate of return is actual return what you get from the market minus the inflation. So if you are aiming at 15% rate of return, so approximately you have to gain a rate of return of 20%, and from there if you subtract the 5% rate of interest of inflation, then you are actually aiming to that amount of money what I started with. So you have to aim to get an interest of 20% from the investments you make. So my claim is that India's equity market can give you this rate of return, that is 20%, and even more if you can find out hidden gems in the market. So before that, I want to make sure that why I am talking about India. So, so I will show you the performance of the Nifty, that is our index of the Indian stock market, how it has performed over the last years. So in the last 5 years, the rate of the total return what Nifty gave is 88%. So approximately, if I uh, consider it to be 90% and divide by 5, so it is approximately 18%. It is just rough calculation, it's not an exact calculation. So it is 18%, but still we are not getting 20%, but 18% is also good enough, right? So if you just put your money into the index funds which follows the Nifty, then you are getting an 18% return on that, and suppose you subtract the 5% inflation, then still you are making 13% on it. So you can see this is the chart of Nifty from year 2011 to 2022, and it has a general uptrend. So it is so in between it has consolidated for some time. It has grown, it has declined. These phases are there, but if you stay invested for a long time, so that is the more important thing. So if you stay invested for the long time, you don't see what happens in the short term. Then you see that the compounded annual rate of growth will give you 18%, 20% you can earn on the index funds only. Okay. So this is so let us look closely what happens from this July, just 2021 July to the current date. Today is March 2022, 21 July to 22 March. So this is the portion from August 2021 to this mid of October to November 2021. This the Nifty gave a returns good return, but after that it consolidated, it gave a negative return. It was in a downfall, and it again went up. So this is in a short term view of the Nifty. So this short term may confuse you. So it is so if you invested money started at this point, so if you look at this point, it will give you a negative return. So this short term may confuse you that why should I invest in such places where there is too much volatility. but only this volatility will make sure that you earn a good rate of interest in the long run. So that is the point. So you have to focus on the long term investing. Okay, so before proceeding, so I will show some of the key points from the budget that was produced this year. So the finance ministry has presented a budget of 39.45 lakh crores for the financial year 23, which focused on the infrastructure investment to boost revival from the pandemic. So once the government is using this much money, so this should be used in development, infrastructure, education, and defense. All those things, government will use this money, and the companies will get more of the deals from the government. And as the company rises, if you invest in those companies, so your money will also rise according to, with that. So also one more thing is the government targeted that to reduce the fiscal deficit in the current year from 6.9% of the GDP to their target is 6.4%. So that their target is. Okay, some more points which was focused in the budget is so this is called the Gati Shakti Master Plan. So driven by they are planning to increase more roads, railways, airports, mass transportation, waterways, and logistic infrastructure. So their main so one of the aim is to increase the national highway network to expand it by 25,000 kilometer in the next financial year, this financial year 23. So once this comes, means the use of cements, steel, everything will increase according to this plan. Also, the next important point is their EV battery. So one more sector which is growing in the Indian economy, more or less in the world economy, that's the electronic vehicle sector. And the 5G rollout. The spectrum auctions will be conducted in 2022 to facilitate the role of 5G mobiles services throughout the country. So this will help the telecom sectors to grow. This EV battery swapping policy will help the companies which produce EV motor cars to grow. So these are the few points from the budget which will help us to understand which sectors will be growing in the upcoming years. Okay. So next I want to show a nice relation between US recession times and how what follows is India's GDP growth. So from the if you see from the year 1990, so at that point in the year 1991, there was a Gulf War which brought recession in the US. So these gray bars uh, constitute the recession period in USA. And after that, these green bars, if you can see, this this is the indication of the India's GDP growth. So each time a recession happened in US, there was a GDP growth or economic boom in India that follows. So the examples are in 91 the Gulf War, in 2000 9/11 the dot-com blast, in this 2001 to 2002 there was recession in US. After that an economic boom followed in India. Then 2008 there was a financial crisis. There was a recession in US, and also it was followed by an economic boom in India. These green bars indicate. So this is a nice relation. So here in 2022 during the COVID time, again a recession came to US, all over the world you can say, and all over the world are slowly trying to recover from this phase. So our aim, so according if you look at the past performance, so in India is in a verge on a economic boom according to the past performance. Okay. So next I will show you some charts where it will indicate that how India is integrating itself and moving towards an economic boom. So if you can see the use of domestic and international flights, so this has constantly increased over the years. If you can see the use of smartphone users, this has also constantly is increased over the years. And this is the internet penetration rate. So how many people are using internet? So there's 21. The full data is not there. So here it is a bit lesser. But usually this is an uptrend. So, huh. So next you can see this is an also an uptrend. That is how many people are using the UPI method, the United Payment Interface for transactions, and the GST collection for the financial year 2021. This is the month base. This is also in the usual. This is only between an year, so it is just this thing. So as the sectors get more and more organized, so it will create more GST revenue collection and more income tax for the government, which government can further spend into development and infrastructure. So which will help the companies to grow. So so in the for example in the past December 21, so the GST revenue collection was a total of 1.29 crores rupees. 1.1 lakh 1.29 lakh crores rupees. And also advance tax for the, if you can see this screenshot from the Minister of Finance. So also in the financial year 2021, the advance tax collection stands to be 4.5 lakh crores. So these are so these are the main source of income uh, of the government, which the government uses for the to spend in the India's growth. Okay, so this chart shows you how the tax revenue of the government of India is rising throughout the years. So here you can see also this is an exponential chart. Okay, this one I'll skip. Okay, so one more thing which points that India is moving towards an economic boom is the called the China plus one strategy. So from this chart, you can see that China is a world superpower, manufacturing superpower. So in 2019, the China contributed to 28.7% of the global manufacturing, and India comes in the fifth position, only at 3.1%. So once the pandemic hit and there was a supply chain disruption, so people started to think that the world is too much dependent on China to produce goods. So they wanted to move towards other countries to keep a second option for their choices. So that is mainly what is called the China plus one strategy. So it started in 2017 that leading to production cuts during winter, followed by geopolitics, trade wars, and willingness of large companies to de-risk their supply chains. And this COVID-19, what when came on 2020, this escalated the adoption of this strategy. So this is called the China plus one strategy. Also, an UBS survey suggests that 20 to 30% of the manufacturing will be leaving from China. So, and it suggests that India is likely to be the next best candidate. So, because of the various reasons, that it has advantage in various industries, favorable factors of production, conducive business environment, and in, incentivized government funding. So, also we have one thing that India also have cheap labor, like China. So government has make use of this situation and took further steps in the same direction, introducing PLI schemes, that is product linked incentive schemes, to multiple sectors like textiles, electronics, and raising import duties on some products and so on. So if you raise import duties on some products, so it will motivate to create those products within India. So before COVID-19 too, the government has taken measures to reduce corporate taxes. So that will encourage the companies to produce more things within India, and initiated the concept of Atmanirbhar Bharat and other incentives to domestic production. So under this Make in India initiative and Atmanirbhar Bharat, so government is encouraging the industries to produce goods within India, and that will also help in the market India towards an economic boom. Okay. So if you can remember that we showed a chart of the Nifty. Nifty is the it comprises of the 50 companies according to the market capitalization, and this is the sectoral wide division. What is the constituents in the Nifty? Okay, so the financial services consist of 36.17%. So financial services includes both banks and non-bank financial system. So banks you have like HDFC, have a non-bank financial services like Bajaj Finance you have. Similarly, it has IT. There are big companies like TCS, Infosys, HCL, and Tech Mahindra. All these things fall under this Nifty chart. So similarly, you can also look into the other constituents of the Nifty. So, but surprisingly, the Indian market has so many companies, but only 70% total 70% of the India's profits comes from only 20 companies. So that is surprising. So because so I'll tell you the reason in a few minutes. So some examples are in the paint sections you have Asian Paints and Bhargava Paints. In small car sections you have Maruti Suzuki, Hyundai. Similarly, cigarettes only ITC, adhesive, Pidilite, and so on. So why this is happening, I will try to explain. Said that there are so many companies, but only 20. There are only few companies we can produce profit, and they end up making 70% of the total India's what profit they are gaining. So to find out these companies, we should try to find monopolies in each segment, because a company which have monopolies and have moat, that is a competitive advantage over the others, so that the new companies cannot compete them and enter into the market. So why do we need monopoly? So suppose you have high inflation and rise of raw material cost. So the monopolies don't have to compromise on their margins, so they can push the extra cost to the consumers. So the monopolies has the pricing power. So if you can figure out monopolies in each of the segments of the market and invest in them for a long time, you will see the returns. So for example, so if there is a suppose there is supply chain disruption and an increase in the raw material cost, the small companies will not able to survive those increase in cost. So their profit margin will shrink, and they will end up giving their market share to these large monopolies. So for example, if you see the recent news, if you follow recent news, so due to this Russia-Ukraine war, the price of the crude oil went up to $120 per barrel, and the main ingredient the paint industry uses this crude oil as a main ingredient. So suppose you have a local manufacturer which produces paint. So if the price of the oil is so high, they can't. So suppose they have a profit margin, right, 10%. So they will have to shrink their profit margin. They can't increase the price of the product because they are not competitive in the market. But the big companies like Asian Paints and Badger, they can, since they are monopolies into the market, they have a huge market share. They can pass on this increase in price to the consumers. So this is the power of what the monopoly has. So this is the these are the old these sectors are there for a long time. So if you see in the new age sectors, like suppose you have food delivery, you will see in each of these sectors only two or three players maximum survive in this sector. So for example, if you see the food delivery, there is only Zomato and Swiggy. So if you see online delivery, you have Amazon, Flipkart. Some more companies were there, but they are not used. People are not using those things. If you see for online uses of uh, products, fashion products, right? So you can see Nykaa and Ajio. These two platforms are only there. And Myntra is there. Also, if you see for the cabs, Ola and Uber are there. So if you see in the new age business also, only two or three companies will be only dominant in the market. So there will be a entry barrier for a third player or a fourth player into the market, and they will already dominate this area. So once you have figured out monopolies into the market, then there is two metrics which you can follow uh, to see which company can give us that 20% return that we are aiming at. So one such one such metric we can use as the ROC, that is return on capital employed. So suppose you are so return on capital employed is suppose you are giving a capital to the company, means you are investing in the company, means you are giving your capital to the company. So on how much return they are providing on that capital. And one the second thing is free cash flow. So so if you can understand, if you can take any company's balance sheet and try to understand how the company is using their free cash flows, uh, then you can find out the gems within the market which can give you the 20% returns. So the free cash flow can be calculated from the net income plus the non-cash expenses and subtracting the increasing working capital and capex, the capital expenditures. So suppose you have a company which has free cash flow of 30%. So free cash flow of 30%. If it is a good company, they will pay out one third of this free cash flow as dividend for the shareholders, and use the remaining two third of the free cash flow again in increasing the business. So you have to look for such companies which manages and knows how to use the free cash flows of the companies. So I'll next bring some case studies. So this paint thing I've already spoken. So if you see the market share of the Asian Paints and Bhargava Paint together in the whole Indian market, so it's 39 plus 12 is almost 51. So that is more than 51% of the paint industry is controlled by these two dominant players. And these others, if you can see, this 32%. So these are the small players. So as the inflation rises and price of the raw materials increases, these portions will come towards these two companies, Asian Paints and Bhargava Paints. So if you suppose you take these two companies, and I will show you the statement of the profit and loss, how they are performing over the last few years. So if you can see that operating profit for this is the chart for Asian Paints, the operating profit is constantly increasing. So if you can see this line, this is constantly increasing. The profit before tax, this is also constantly increasing. So the one point is how much the people are earning on the stock price. If you can see the 10-year CAGR, that is compounded annual growth rate of a Asian Paint stock over 10 years, this 24%. So this company meets our demand of 20%. So this is giving more, that is 24%. So similarly, if you can see, this is the profit and loss statement of the Bhargava Paints. This also gave you the 10-year rate of CAGR of stock price is 34%. This is much more. So here also you can see that the operating profit is constantly increasing over the years. So like this, if you can go through the annual sheet of the company, or if you see the profit and loss statement, how the companies are performing, how they are using the free cash flow, you can understand and find out companies that will give you the rate of return which you are expecting, that is 20%. So one more sector I'll try to focus, that is the footwear sector. So we know brands like Nike, Adidas, those things we know, right? But most of the Indians, maybe 1-2% of the Indian can afford those costly brands. So most of the Indians go for the cheaper products, right? So that is either Relaxo or Bata. So if you can, so this since 98% of the India is wearing that 100 or 150 rupees chappal, so that is manufactured by Relaxo or Bata. So Bata does not produce that low cost chappal. So this is the segment where Relaxo is taking the market share from Bata also. So if I can show you the, so Relaxo is one more company in the that is a monopoly in this section of the footwear section. So if you can show you this profit and loss statement of this Relaxo, you can see same thing. The operating profit is constantly increasing. So this thing is there because of the this is a trailing 12 month. This is not the full result is not there. So you can see it is also increasing. So now see the how compounded annual return they have given over the stock price. It's 55% over the last 10 years. So so I hope you can understand. So if you can find such companies which are monopolies in their segment and stay invested for a long time, it will give you the rate of returns which are in it can give you even more the rate of return we are expecting. So this so if you so this went to footwear section. So now if you can see the toothpaste, so this Colgate and HUL. So if you consider Colgate and HUL, these are the colors indicating the companies. They also these two companies take more than 50% of the market share. So, it's HUL is the Hindustan Unilever. So they are also monopolies in some other segments. So this is one thing I wanted to show. One more sector is, so if you see the testing centers for medical testing sectors, so you know some of the prominent names, maybe Dr. Lal PathLabs, SRL, Metropolis. So if you see the revenue collection of Dr. Lal PathLabs in the financial year 20, it's 1130. So this is not yet a monopoly, this Dr. Lal PathLabs, but this is moving towards a monopoly. So if a product or if a company is already a monopoly, then the growth rate will be 20%. That is fine. But if you can find a company which is becoming a monopoly, then you can also you can also 2x or 3x your money in that case. So these are the few sectors where more or less the monopolies are defined. So I will try to introduce two more sectors where monopolies are still not defined. So the first sector is the sector of consumer durables. So consumer durables consist of this television, fridge, AC, and those things. These are the consumer durables. So you can see the market share of consumer durables. So this is a chart produced by McKinsey. So these are the six companies are there. Panasonic, Whirlpool here. So you can read the Samsung Cortez. So these six companies are fighting among themselves to gain the market share. So this is more or less the market share of the consumer durable. So there was a okay. So this I make a see. So there is a nice chart which indicates how the consumer behaves while buying these consumer durables. So suppose you have a total 100% is your consumer, then 20% of them are loyalists. That is, who will repurchase the same brand without shopping, and remaining 80% will be consist of two segments. That is 40% who will buy brands, who will shop around and buy brands that they currently own, and 40% will buy brands that they from different from they currently own. So this is the one thing that is there is still there is position to build faith into this segment, because people are still trying to switch from the brands they are using. So here there is one more chart is 25% of the customer are switchers who are tempted to switch from brand to brand, and 70% are those who try to stick with that same brand what they are using in the previous. So there is a nice matrix which tells that suppose you have brought LG, suppose a consumer has brought LG product, then what is the percentage of the chance that they will switch to the different manufacturer. So if there is LG, there is 46% they will move in the second time when they are buying their product to Samsung, 31% to Whirlpool, and so on. So this is a matrix. So this all these things tells us that there is clearly no market leader in this segment, one or two leaders in this segment. So still people are using all these products and trying to gain experience. But if you see the whole industry as a total, the consumer durables, so it is expected to rise in this fashion in exponential manner. So it's 13% rise to 36 billion US dollars in the financial year 23. So this is what I told. This industry comprises of this television, small appliances like mixer, grinders, washing machines, microwave, refrigerator, and this air conditioners. So this was one of the sector. Then second sector which I want to point out is the electric vehicle sector. So I'll try to read out some of the articles. Here there's this National Electric Mobility Mission, that is NEMP of Plan 2020. It was launched in 2030 by the Department of Heavy Industry to as a roadmap to faster manufacture and adoption of electric vehicles in India. So the first is FAME phase one. So FAME is the faster adoption and manufacturing of hybrid and electric vehicles. It was notified in April 2015 to promote the manufacture of electric vehicles and hybrid vehicle technology. So why it is gaining important is so since global warming was rising and people want to shift from fossil fuels, using fossil fuels and the traditional energy to green energy. So the governments of all over the world are trying to promote the use of electric vehicles into the country. So for this, the demand creation incentive has been highly disbursed in form of reduced purchase prices. Yes. So the Ministry of Power has clarified that the charging EVs is considered as a service, and which means that the operating EV charging station will not require a license. So this policy will enable faster adoption of EV vehicles. So if you have to gain license for charging EVs, then it will again set back the process of adoption of electronic vehicles. So also few more points is. The Ministry of Road Transport and Highways, it has announced that the both commercial as well as private battery operated vehicles will be issued green license, and it has been notified that all battery operated ethanol powered and methanol powered transport vehicle will be exempted from commercial permit requirements. So government is uh, trying people to use telling people to use more electronic vehicles than the traditional vehicles which runs on petrols and diesels. So this is one more industry where monopoly is not defined. So uh, which company will stand out in this market, that is still not defined. So but this EV industry has lot of prospects. So if you see so there are car manufacturers are there, two-wheeler manufacturer, four-wheeler manufacturer who can bus, truck, those things are there. Also, a battery is required. So there are two prominent players in battery manufacture. The lithium-ion battery, their research and development is going on as a lithium-ion battery for cars, these electronic vehicles. So they are Excite and Amar Raja batteries. These two sections are there. Also, there will be software requirements for electronic vehicles. So that one section is there. And OEM, the original equipment managers, then semiconductors, chips, everything will be required for electric vehicles. So each of the companies, each of the sectors will flourish if the EV market flourish in the next decade. So this is the roadmap and various policies and incentives that was taken by the government from the year 2011 to till now. Uh, so uh, So this EV market has a prospective growth rate of 54.2% by the year 2025, and it has a in 2019 it has a market size of $1,027, and in 2025 it is expected to have a market size of this much, the 13,000 this US dollars. I want to find out. So this landscape is still competitive. That there are some major players who are trying to figure out market share in this sector. So same name of some companies you may know. That's ABB Limited, Delta Electronics, Magneta Power, Tata Power, and Ether Energy. So this Ether Energy is a startup. So this I know, and ANI Technologies. So ANI Technologies is the parent name for the Ola. That so this Ola, they are also bringing electric scooters, two-wheelers, if you know, and EP Motors India Private Limited. So there are also they are trying to make strategic developments in major this EV sector market players. So they are trying to collaborate with other companies. So for instance, in to November 2019, the Magneta Power Limited partnered with the Lodha Group, a real estate developer for EV charger installation. Under these terms, Magneta will install its charger stations at a real estate products of the Lodha, Mumbai. So similarly, Panasonic Corporation also announced planned to set up mini charging stations at most parking spaces, malls, fuel outlets, and specially developed zones across the city, such as Pune, Bangalore. So these two sectors, this consumer durables and EV sectors, are still not has monopolies. But if you can try to figure out which companies will be surviving in the near future, then you can also earn a good amount of returns in this if you are investing into those companies. So if you see these two monitors, so this is the increasing demand of EVs. So this is on the high side. Also, the support provided from the government by incentive and policies. This is also on the high. So this is more overall the thing I wanted to present. So these are the few websites which I use to study the companies, their annual sheets and those things. So these are ticker tape, trading view, Skinner, and ticker phenology. Also, Also, I can suggest you to study. These are the few books you can study for your own interest.